I'd ask Kim if you're ready to. There you are. At this time, I'd like to introduce any international Rotarians, if we have any. Bob Werner, please. Right here, Bob. No? Our Canadian friends didn't show up?
We don't have any except
Oh,
Kim.
international?
Not international. We do. Canada. Wow. Sorry, boss man. I forgot. Or I missed. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Darlene Garrett. I am from the Campbell River Rotary Group in Campbell River, BC, Canada.
Thank you. Nice to have you here.
I'm going to get her a flag, so.
All right, good.
Thank you.
So at this time, let's introduce our visiting Rotarians. Any visiting Rotarians? Over toward the sign-in table. Thank you. Yeah, if you'd introduce yourself and what club you're with.
I sure will. Sorry to be late, but my name is Walt Parrish with the Rotary Club of Fresno, and I'm happy to be here.
Very nice. Good to have you here. Okay, by show of hands, guests of Rotarians, please.
All right. We'll start with you.
I'll get that. I'll do you a little bit.
All right.
Thank you, President Randy. Joining me today, Maureen Valdez. She moved from San Francisco. She's in the healthcare industry. She's been here 1 month, and she wants to be involved.
Hey.
Yay, Maureen.
This would be a great club for you to be involved. Any other guests or Rotarians?
I got one.
Oh, good.
You want to stand up? Hi, Rotarians. I'd like to introduce my colleague and friend Heidi Lee from our UNLV Lee School of Business. This is our first Rotary meeting here in Las Vegas, and hopefully she'll be a member. So welcome her.
All right. Good to have you here. Any other guests of Rotarians at this time? I'd like to introduce the head table today. Dwayne Matters is our speaker today. He'll be more formally introduced a little bit later. Nice to have you here, Dwayne. And his friend, Christine Ruggiero. Okay, thank you. And I have David Thorson, past President David Thorson, at the head table. So, the Thor is in the house. I'd like to thank the Rotarians that helped me today. Set up was Mike Sudamat and Anna Oriana. Greeters, Kirk Alexander and Chan Lam. And I know there's one other person up there, too. Adam was up there. Yes, thank you, Adam. Invocation, of course, by Jamie Goldsmith. Our song leader was Michael Williams. Our sergeant at arms is Kim Naomi. And tear down this afternoon will be Chan Lim and Jamel Sarat. Our photographer is Tina Bishop. Okay. At this time, I believe we'll take the microphone to Steve Casey for a moment. Kim? Steve has a very generous offer. This is a past president, Steve Casey. They'd like to present to the club.
I have 4 tickets to the opening night of the Las Vegas Philharmonic that I'm not able to use. Leonard Bernstein music is going to be played 7:30 Saturday evening. And I'm going to donate the tickets to the club. They're $300. So anybody who wants them, the money goes to the club. Any takers?
Okay, the opening bid starts at $300.
4 tickets. I may not have mentioned that. 4 tickets.
4 tickets, and we'd like the opening bid of $300, please.
Saturday night, 7:30 is the start of the performance.
And he's donating the tickets, so all the money will go to our foundation.
Okay.
All right.
We tried.
Well, if anybody decides later, you see Steve. Thank you.
Oh. I'm sorry.
So hopefully everybody that I'm looking at in this room has completed the survey that was sent out a few weeks ago. Does everyone know about the survey that we've been asked to fill out? If you haven't been able to fill that out, this is your last opportunity. We have 2 computers set up in the back of the room, and immediately after the meeting you could go back there. But we'd like to get everybody's input. It's going to help us make decisions on how we move forward, the things that we do, whether we like what we're doing, whether we want some changes, things like that. So being a part of this club, I encourage you to take a couple moments and fill out that survey. So today is that last day for that. There's 2 computers back here. So thank you. Let's take the microphone to Jackie Thornhill, please. I think we've got some cool things happening today.
Hi, everyone. Today is third quarter Wetzel Awards out at Nellis. And it looks like we have actually 5 award winners today. And it's going to be a large turnout. The Brigadier General will be the commanding officer representing today. So if you need to come out, come on out. And if you need a ride, we'll be at the Visitor Center at Las Vegas Boulevard and Craig Road at 3 o'clock. The ceremony will begin at 3:30. That's going to be the new permanent time, 3:30. So if you can get onto the base, keep that in mind. If you need a ride, once again, Las Vegas Boulevard and Craig Road at the Visitor Center at 3 o'clock for a ride into the base. Come on out and support the military.
All right. Thank you, Jackie. I'm not sure if we have the principal or assistant principal in the house today from Beckley. Okay, very good. I looked right at you earlier. So, yeah, if you'll please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your schools.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Troop, and I'm the proud assistant principal of Beckley Elementary School. And we had fabulous Spread the Word activity this week, so thank you so much for that. We really appreciate your support with Spread the Word. And this is my beautiful principal, Shannon Brown,
who was trying to make sure that I chewed all of my bread before I came and introduced myself to all of you. Just like what Cheryl just said, we actually had the largest Spread the Word breakfast with books that we have ever had in the history of Beckley Elementary School. We had 365 families and students that were there, along with a record number of Rotarians. Any Rotarian who was there at Breakfast with Books, would you mind taking just a moment and standing up for me, please? I would like a round of applause to these amazing volunteers. This is not even all of them. There were 18 in total who were there. You have no idea how much we appreciate all of the support that we receive from you guys. Also, the amazing Tony has just come over and shared with us that our Books with Buddies is booming with Rotarians, which I love to say. We went from 5 mentors last year from Rotary, now to 10. So we'd love to see those numbers increase and see more of you guys there. Again, thank you so much for all of your support. We do have an upcoming event next month for our Harvest Festival. We have October 12th is our big, huge fundraiser. So if anybody can come out and volunteer, then please feel free to reach out to myself, to Cheryl, to Marie Walsh. She can get you guys set up to come out. The event is going to be starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We have activities that we are doing beforehand. So anytime that day that you'd like to come out and help out, please feel free to contact us. Again, thanks so much.
Thank you. I have a question for you as well. Were you looking for a little library house?
Yes.
Maria said something about that to me. I think I have found that for you. So I'll be talking to you about that after the meeting. We'll get that to you.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Yay! More books. We love it.
All righty. Thank you. Well, this time I think we have a few moments for a little fellowship. So we'll break and enjoy your lunch. With a grace. All right, let's start back up. If Kim is ready to help me out here.
Yep.
There you are, ready to go. Let's take the microphone to Deb Granda at this time. Deb, if you can give us some update on the raffle, first of all.
Oh, okay. Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. I did give the count on the raffle to Janice, but I think it was we're around 160 tickets sold, and pause and smile. 160 tickets taken and sold, and the money's in. So we have $16,000 so far. Of that, $6,000 is profit so far. There's about another 80 or 90 tickets that are outstanding that people have, and the money has not been turned in yet. So if you have money, please turn it in, and please try to sell the tickets. We really don't want to take them back. We will if we have to, but we really don't want to take them back. We really would like to see everyone sell them to your friends and family. And then that leaves somewhere approximately 50 that still need to be picked up. So again, this raffle, we're hoping to earn $20,000, and this goes to our mission, of teaching youth to succeed through literacy, education, and life skills development. So we can't continue to do fabulous things at Beckley, like we heard earlier, if we don't have any money. So please try to sell the tickets. We will be accepting tickets and money up until 12 o'clock on the 27th, the day of the drawing. So I need a little bit of time to reconcile before the ticket is drawn. So the 27th, 12 o'clock, we need all the money in. Thank you.
Okay, if you'll hold on just a minute. I want to interject some other things about this drawing, too. This is the first time we've done this, folks. And I can tell you from personal experience, it's just not that difficult. I had 3 with me this morning, and I merely asked 3 people, and I sold 3 tickets. So we can do this, and this money is all going to the proceeds of our foundation. This is probably one of the easiest, most least physical projects that we've done. So if you haven't taken a ticket, grab a couple tickets from Deb today and go out and ask some people. It's a great opportunity. The odds are good, 1 in 300 that you're going to win $10,000. So let's take this seriously, and let's all participate in this. So this is $20,000 that's going to go right to our foundation. So
right, and from what I understand, Janice Lenke is working on a special presentation for the 27th. It's at this point a surprise, but we will have a special visitor here to actually pull the ticket for us. So again, try to sell those tickets, and it is one of our biggest fundraisers. So I appreciate all your help. Thank you.
okay, and while we have you, do you have anything to talk to us about on the Shakespeare Festival?
So I would like to thank the members that showed up over the weekend for the Shakespeare Festival. We did have a wonderful time. The home that I rented was adorable, and it had a fabulous backyard, and the weather was cool, and we were able to sit in the yard for a few hours in the afternoon and drink wine and eat food and drink a little more wine and see some fabulous shows. So I encourage everyone next year, to sign up. It is a lot of fun, and the weather's at least 20 degrees cooler up there.
Right, thank you. Let's take the microphone to Kirk Alexander. He's here? He's present? He's here because he's not all there?
You
brought
funny
it
guy.
up.
Hey, I think you should explain a little bit the Dr. Seuss thing. We got a lot of members that don't know you as
Dr.
the
Seuss. Now
purveyor
that
of
I've
Dr. Seuss.
got a little more
Yes.
educated on the...
Uh-huh. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit, just to kind of dovetail on what Shannon Brown said about Breakfast with Books. It was very successful. As a matter of fact, to break down that number of 365 people involved, 214 of those were kids. And one of the things that's probably the most important is that by doing this, these children are able to build a library of their own at home, where their family can't really support or buy the books that they're collecting when they're there. So that's probably the biggest part of the whole thing. Those of you that attended, I'd encourage you to ask other people in the club to get involved with this program. It is really amazing. It's funny how when you go the first time and you don't know what to expect, you go back. It's a really good thing. And one other thing, on the 22nd of September, we're going to do a little highway cleanup out on the road that goes from Red Rock to Blue Diamond. That's our stretch of the highway. It's out off of the Bonnie Springs Gate. So if you've got some time on a Saturday morning, usually about 2 hours, we'll say, maybe 3 if you're going to indulge in breakfast afterward at Jerry Senes's house, the 22nd of September. See you then.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, let's take the microphone to Tom Krob.
Thank you, Past President Randy. We'd like to remind everybody, October 5th is our cigar social, so put it on your calendar. If you have not signed up, the Green Book has the sign-up sheet in there, and be sure to put your name on there. We'll be starting at 6 o'clock. It's a Friday evening. got photobombed on that one. Be 6 o'clock Friday evening. We'll have some raffle prizes. Bring a cigar to smoke. Bring one for the cigar exchange, and also bring a cigar for the troops. So hope to see you there. Thank you.
Can we bring guests to that, Tom?
Well, most certainly bring guests. Yes.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Hey, past president, can we have Janice say something real quick?
Sure.
So I wanted to give everybody an update about the entertainment. So the day of the raffle, we mentioned before an MC. We're a little bit late getting the press release out because, with the sports starting up with hockey and NFL, we are committed to having a sports figure here. We're just trying to figure out which one. So we will have a couple of showgirls here, and they will be in Golden Knights attire. So great photo opportunities for you guys. And we mentioned before, when you're selling these tickets, think about colleagues, friends, business associates. Great way to get them to come as long as you've bought them a ticket or they bought a ticket, and take advantage of the festivities that day. So really trying to get the press release out so you can use that when you're out selling tickets outside the club. Thank you.
So I heard a little undertone when you said showgirls, but dressed in what? Golden Knights. So how are we going to know they're showgirls? Okay, I'm sure it'll be magnificent. I just had a question, so thank you. So I think that concludes our announcements and at this time. I was given a slip of paper, and it's always fun to raise a little money for our foundation, right? So the slip of paper it gives to me shows a nice picture of one of our members with Mayor Carolyn Goodman. So with that much information, would that person like to stand up and take oh, there he is. Thank you. It's past President Tom Thomas. Oh, don't sit down yet. So I was a president 5 years ago, and that's when fines were much bigger than, what was that, $95 last year and things like
We've
that?
been in a recession.
So you got a little bit of time here if you'd like to use it up.
Well, this was it was a wonderful event. It was the opening of the Mayor's Fund, which many cities have. It's a fund that will bring in donations from citizens to help with a lot of the focus in downtown. And the Greater Good Council, which I'm a part of, which teamed up with our Rotary Club last year to support Hollingsworth Elementary, made the courtyard project, which is an all-encompassing location for the homeless in our city to receive all of the necessary accoutrements of life in one place. They can go there for dental, vision, haircut, showers, lockers for their gear to be protected. And this was the dream of Mayor Goodman. And so the Greater Good Council supported that with $110,000.
Good. That's coming from the Thomas and Mack Company?
Well, part of it came from us, yeah.
Okay, well,
we're part of the Greater Good Council.
Very generous. So
thanks, Randy.
And most of us in town are used to the 8.25% sales tax that we have in our state, right, in our county. So I think it'd be appropriate that I don't know, that'd be about $8,900, something like that, fine for 8.25%. What do you think,
Well,
Tom?
as long as it goes to spread the word, I'm good with that.
Okay, very good. So, thank you. But this time, whoever has some red tickets out there, we'll pull them and see who the lucky winner is. Ready? Where's the next card? Raffle time. Okay, I've given a quick shuffle here. The number is 509-5329. 5329. Bob Werner. Here, Bob. Bob, don't go away empty-handed. I got $10 for you. Okay, and for $50 in Lowry cards, 509-5189. 5189. Oh, Pete. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite David Thorson to the podium. He's going to formally introduce our speaker for today. David?
Good afternoon, Rotarians. It's my distinct honor to introduce Dwayne Matters. And I think after your presentation, you'll see that Dwayne does actually matter. So, sorry. Silly pun. You can read his bio. It's quite impressive. In speaking at the table, I asked him a little bit about his background. He actually grew up as an Air Force brat and lived all over the world. And I asked him about his hobby, and he said his hobby is a rock hound, and so collecting rocks. And so the Air Force had the distinct pleasure of moving 500 pounds of rocks from Germany to Texas to Massachusetts to California. So that's why they have those big planes, I guess. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Dwayne Matters. Big, warm Rotary welcome.
I walk around? Oh, great, thank you. What I've had up here for a while is I have a presentation I'd given 10 years ago and at the 10-year commemoration. And generally, I found I've never been able to get through that whole presentation. And what people always say is, we really would like to see some pictures of what it was like up there. And one of my functions was to document work activity and document equipment locations and things of that nature. And I actually had an authorized photographer badge. Therefore, my camera couldn't be confiscated by the National Guard or the PAPD or the NYPD. So I ended up with about 10,843 photographs from the pile and in the pit. And so I just selected a few and I throw them in there. And then on the 10-year commemoration, I did a pop-up museum at the Main Street station where I think, what was it, about 105 photographs, give or take, and put them around the room. Some of those are over there. If you have time afterwards, if you'd like to take a look at what I brought in, they're things I actually somewhat pulled out of the trash as we moved from site to site, and they moved our offices from place to place when working at Ground Zero, because we never really stayed put very long, very fast. I'm going to see if I can get this to switch over to the presentation. I want to move it on my own, so basically, I want to move it on my own. I don't want it, it's not timed.
Okay, so then just here,
yeah. Okay, I had the distinct pleasure and actual honor, I consider it, to serve at Ground Zero from September 15th to March 31st. I originally went down there to set up an air monitoring network. The company I worked for out of Massachusetts had the only crane in Lower Manhattan working at a Port Authority facility some people might know as the Staten Island Ferry Terminal. And our contract got quickly mobilized. We marched the crane up East Broadway. They brought it to the south side of the site, and they started working on the 12th with heavy equipment. Heavy equipment was actually crucial to that job. You could not have done that job with Homer buckets. It was just one of those things. And over time, we brought more equipment in and more equipment in. We hired iron workers. And what I really would like to leave you with here is a lot of people lost their lives that day. A lot of people made very difficult decisions. And a lot of people that made difficult decisions those days were people that were just routine people off the street, iron workers, carpenters, operating engineers. that went in after everything fell. We are losing a ground zero worker a week from exposures that they had there. And one of my jobs there was to run the health and safety program from what was the Port Authority sector to eventually the whole 12-acre site at one point. And I thought we did a very good job. But I look back now and I say losing one worker a week, it takes a hit on me personally. But what I'd like to show you is basically the layout of the site. You had 210-story glass buildings. You had a couple 9-floor buildings, a 47-floor building. The Mayor's Emergency Management Office was in that Tower 7. And then you had the Marriott Hotel, Tower 3, which is 22 floors. You have an awful lot of glass. Glass is silica, glass is breathable. And you had major destruction. Anything in red was to ground that day by the end of the day. Everything that's green was still standing partially. Everything in yellow was damaged. That's kind of the same outlay with the building outlines there. There's also an aerial that hung in my office for a while over on the table that's about the same thing. It just doesn't have the building outlines that shows it. The blue line going across is the former shoreline of Manhattan in the 1700s. So that shows you that what the towers and what the whole site was built on was essentially reclaimed land. And a lot of that reclaimed land came from the area inside the blue. People heard about the slurry wall, which I hope we'll get to talk about later. A lot of that material came from inside that slurry wall so we could put the buildings up later on. One of the biggest issues, you have a 12-acre site. There aren't many ways to get to the center of 12 acres to lift anything if it's all destroyed. So one of the things that was done was LiDAR. That was one of the first real strong applications of LiDAR technology, which is a GPS, radar, combined technology. It gives very precise height and GPS coordinations. And we were able to then pick where we wanted to put cranes based upon the ability to do lift and the ability to reach things. What I'd like you to take from this photo, and this is looking pretty much due west. If you see that little crater, and I figures it's not going to show up here, but if you notice that crater, that building is Tower 6. The top 12, 15 floors of Tower 1, as it went down, creaked into that, fell into Tower 6, caught Tower 6 on fire. Many of you may have seen the cross that was put up at Ground Zero at one point. It's now in a museum. It's part of the National Museum. That was actually found in that crater. And we moved it around a couple times, put it up on the stanchions for the North Tower to Winter Garden Bridge that was also collapsed. As most of you may know, the initial incident, we had 210-story buildings down. We had several 9-story buildings down. We were told when I got there on the 15th there were 5,000, maybe 10,000 people dead or missing. The only hard count that was out there were the aircraft. That was the only hard count for days. We had a response that was proper incident command run through the FDNY, but then you also had civilians, as I mentioned, that ran in and they wanted to start moving concrete, moving dust, moving things, which is very dangerous in an incident command structure and also very dangerous in that environment where you have a lot of loose debris, a lot of contaminants, a lot of things that are really people shouldn't be exposed to unless they know what they're doing. And we didn't have any safe egress. We were very concerned that buildings around the site might collapse. World Financial One, the Deutsche Bank building, we were concerned that that might fall in the process. We were concerned that the slurry wall would give way. If that happened, although people use the expression that the Hudson River would come rushing in, it wouldn't be quite like that, but it would be pretty close. You would have all that water that was west of the site only by about 800 to 1,000 feet moving into the site. We had no way in the first 3 or 4 days to move 5,000 workers out in less than an hour, let alone 5 minutes. So we had to get the streets cleared. That's an early photo from the 14th, looking at Tower 1. It was about 13 stories of debris. So we went from 110 to 13 stories. Highly compacted. And we'll see some of the compaction later on. That's looking along the west side of Tower 1, down West Side Highway, West Street, looking south. You can see how much debris is in the road. You couldn't crawl over that and get out if you had to get out in an hour. That's what it looked like 4 days later after bringing heavy equipment in and getting people who know how to move debris, iron workers, operating engineers. Those guys are the real heroes from September 12 on. Those guys knew how to cut stuff. They knew how to move stuff. There is an OSHA standard instruction for doing work. There's no such thing as an OSHA demolition structure for doing work. So these guys, lack of phrase, they did the Lord's work on those days. That's looking on the south side. If you see where a little bit in front of that grappler that's in front, that's about where the Greek Orthodox Church was sitting. It was pounded to ground, not recognizable in any sense, way, shape, or fashion. That's Tower 6 looking into the crater. And that's the cross that we found in the middle that's now sitting in the museum. Give everyone a chance to look at that. Get out of your way. We used an awful lot of heavy equipment, and that equipment all had specific purposes. Depending upon its size is where it got posted, and we would watch these guys move things round and round. We brought in cranes. We had our Manitowoc 4100. We brought in, and we'll see a picture of it in a minute, what we called the BFC, the Big Freaking Crane, which was I think it's the second or third largest crane that's land-based for lifting equipment, or lifting mass. And it came in on about 12 or 15 flatbeds from Cleveland. And it came in, I want to say, sometime about the third week of September. The white one is the BFC. This is actually the one on the left is the crane that we actually brought in from the Staten Island Ferry Terminal about 3/4 of a mile away and walked it up the street. Get a little orientation here. Up in the upper right-hand corner, that is the west side of Tower 2. Up a little bit to the right of the left-hand corner, that's the northeast skin of Tower 1. Then you have Tower 6 and Tower 5 running along the side. And this is the type of equipment we had, depending upon what it was doing, what was being lifted, and where it was. And physically, I had a picture, I deleted it out of here, I'm pretty sure, but we would station these cranes as we were able to get to the pile and do it safely. We would station these grapplers so far apart from each other, and they would physically hand steel to each other without putting it on ground. These guys know how to use their claws, and they save time by doing that, because putting it down, picking it up, and then moving it over, that's touching it 3 times to move it once. And these guys could do it, move it down the pile all at once. It was an absolute alphabet soup of contaminants. If you can think of a letter of the alphabet, I can give you something that, if it's not a carcinogen, is something that you shouldn't be exposed to, and you shouldn't be exposed to for the hours that people were working. A shift was 12 hours. A shift for me was 14, sometimes 18, because I had responsibilities for meetings. But every one of these things will do damage to you. Everyone thought about asbestos, of course, but everything down that line, based upon what the building was made out of. Think about taking any building, this one for instance, and crushing it and burning it. What's going to be given off, from the fluorescent lights to the glue and the laminates to the wire? And then on top of that, the buildings on Tower 6 and Tower 5 were government buildings. They had labs in them, And they also had shooting ranges in them. So there were ammunition issues we had to deal with over time. There were numerous air monitoring programs. My company ran one. That's what I went down there originally for the first week. It was the week I was supposed to be out, but I asked to stay. But US EPA, OSHA, New York City, NIOSH, Liberty Mutual, physically almost everyone was running air monitoring programs. I would come to work in the morning or in the evening, and I would find air monitoring reports about an inch thick to tell me what had happened the night before or the day of. We would get safety bulletins routinely from the Department of Design and Construction. That was the New York City's representative for overseeing this job. People have a misconstrued notion of what FEMA does. FEMA does have response teams, but FEMA's biggest responsibility in any disaster is to make sure that locals have what they need to do what they need, whether it be money, equipment, staging. You don't generally find FEMA workers doing all the work. What you find is they are the glue that holds everything in between. They're the cement in the piece of sandstone. And then the sand is all the little agencies or entities like what I was working for to get the work done. We found an awful lot of ammunition out of Tower 6. I actually had an iron worker that was cutting on Tower 6 one night, and a round went off and grazed his shield. That's when we realized we had a problem. That was the first time anyone ever brought up ammunition, other than the fact of right after the job, the Secret Service, the FBI, they wanted in the basement of Tower 6 because their cars were there, they had weapons in their cars, and they didn't want people going in there and getting those weapons. And there was a picture in the slideshow that was in there of those cars. They were burned. There was nothing there salvageable at all. But by the 17th of September, they wanted in that garage no matter how unsafe it was. And that's just the meeting reports from that. We would receive work area notifications where you can and cannot go. If you're on that shift, we had horns we would blow. We would let people know that we're about to drop something. And I would brief my workers, my iron worker crew, and we would make sure that everyone had a copy of this thing so they knew where they were and where they weren't supposed to be. And we would quiz them and say, I'm going to blow it 2 blows on a horn. What does that mean? Our goal was, in the beginning there, no deaths. And this is the easiest way, just not knowing your surrounding. We now use the phrase situational awareness. One of the problems we had was keeping those cranes and the equipment stable. It's reclaimed land. It's reclaimed land that has undergone a traumatic situation. And we have a slurry wall that we thought was damaged also. So we had to platform this equipment before we could set it up to go. You there? They're good. So we would get direction from DDC. The engineers would go through, they would go design something, and I actually have some plans in here that I can kind of show you how this was done. It was really done on the fly, and it was actually magical the way they would do this. We couldn't wait for material, go up. We couldn't wait for materials to arrive at the site. We reclaimed materials from the site. Those are box columns from the elevator shaft at Tower 1. We took those, we cut them, and we used those as the beginning of the platform. Is that any better? Thank you. We cut those. We figured if they would hold up a 110-story building, they will hold up a 40-ton piece of equipment. We buried them. We made sandwiches out of them. I don't know if they ever came out of the ground, to be honest with you. I never saw anyone dig them up. That's near West Side Highway. Basically, if you see the bridge in the background, West Side Highway went under that. So that's just on the east side of West Side Highway. And this is how those things were designed. You get engineers, some of them young, some of them old, with a pencil, pad, calculator, and they would draw this stuff up on the fly, and they would do it. Then someone else would look at it. And sometimes it would come back, like that. You can do the one on the left, but you can't do the one on the right. And it allowed us to get equipment close to the site. It allowed us to protect the slurry wall, because the last thing, we had to bring equipment off the pile every 12 hours to get fuel, to get maintenance. So it would have gone across the slurry wall. The more times across the slurry wall, the more chance you have to damage it. So we ramped over it. That's what happens if you don't look at a stable structure. There were massive voids in that pile, and you didn't know what was under you. Sometimes there was nothing. Sometimes it was like pixie sticks, and you were just relying on it to happen to the plant in the basement of Tower 1 over at, I think it was at level B3. We went through a reclamation process. We went through a process of trying to find the lines to see if they were broken anywhere in the substructure of the building. And it became we actually had what we called the Freon monitoring team. And I remember being at the meeting that night, and they said they were going to institute the Freon monitoring team, and here's what it's going to consist of. Who wants to be part of it? My hand was up before the echo left the room, because I figured if someone was going to put a monitor on me that read real time that there was phosgene gas in the air, I think I'd want to be the one getting it, rather than relying on the guy that's running away telling me it's been detected. So I wore it. And they taught us what dissolved Freon gas looks like in water, because water looks different when there's dissolved Freon gas in it. It has kind of a greenish tinge to it. Kind of looks like a pond that's gone through deoxygenization. So you can spot it pretty quickly. And there was a lot of water there, although we haven't seen many pictures of it. There was continual firefighting going on, even into January, on that pile. And I'll let you guys read that. That came from the Congressional Record. I found that not long ago. Thank you. We didn't know we signed up for that. We had no idea. I've been doing environmental work for 30 years. I've worked on Superfund sites for 10 years of my life. I'm not used to that. That's the extent of the fires in 2001. That pile insulated the fires. It kept everything that was hot inside that pile. And as you pulled things off, they would come out hot. And sometimes if there was a little bit of fuel there, it would light up on fire. There's a picture at the end of the slideshow where I have two pictures of myself. I don't have many pictures of myself there. And I look kind of gray. I have my safety glasses off, and I look like Rocket J. Squirrel from Bullwinkle. I got caught out in a fire for about an hour and a half. A grappler pulled a piece of steel out. Everything went up. And they taught us very well how to work with things. And one of the things they said was, if you lose sight of your grappler operator, stay where you are. Don't move. He knows where you are. You move, he's going to keep working. He's going to work. And if he's moving a 30-ton piece of steel and you've moved, he's going to hit you, and your hard hat's not going to do you any good. So get to ground, stay put. They will put water on the fire and get you out, but don't go anywhere unless someone has line of sight on you and you've got corroboration that you both know where you're both at. That was the first safety bulletin we got on the chiller plant. We never thought about that in the process of September 15, September 20. And in the process of going through the sub-basements of the building, level B1, 2, 3, and all that, we were looking for things that said refrigerant on it to see what the condition of that pipe was. That's actually the chiller plant right there on the west side, kind of the southwest side of Tower 1. Those are two of the tanks you see there. That's the turn down for chilling the water that feeds that plant. That's the process of what they looked like as we dug them out. They were intact. They did not have much Freon in them. We collected Freon from various piping structures that we found. We did collect some from 1 or 2 of the tanks, but we never collected all of it. I don't think we even got 10% if I had to throw a guess out there of it. We had a special radio system set up. I normally carried 1 radio. Because I was on the Freon monitoring team, I carried 2 radios. You had to make sure you knew which one you were talking on at the time, so that if there was a Freon emergency or a phosgene emergency, that Incident Command, FDMY, knew about it. It didn't go to the site, so people started running around all over the place, that they could direct people out the way that you need to go based upon which way the windsocks are pointing and which way the egress is there, the quickest, fastest crosswind direction. And that's the storage vessel they brought in for us. Now, you saw the size of the 4 tanks that were in that, and that's what we were supposed to use to get all of it back. Slurry wall technology is something that's been used in Europe for many years in the 60s and 70s, and it's used in unstable ground surfaces. I'm not a geotechnical engineer. I've done geotech. It's by no means a specialty of mine. But the World Trade Center complex was like the first big use of it in the United States. It was 3 foot thick, socketed to bedrock, about 80 feet down, 70 feet's been the general number we use, and there were 158 panels. What's done is trenches are dug with special equipment, concrete slurry is pumped in around rebar cage, and it's allowed to set. It's tied into the bedrock on the backside. It's strengthened to a certain number of kips, pascals, kilopascals actually, and then you dig out the center so that you can start building. And it being tied in is what holds it up, and then when you get to a certain point, you're able to cut those ties, they're called tendons, and then the building stands on its own. It puts a downward force on the outward walls, and then the river or the soil is putting the opposite force equal back into the wall, and everything's supposed to stay right the way it's supposed to stay. And it works very well. The biggest problem we had, and I didn't mention this because in the process of debris removal, was we had 4 contractors that started there on that site on the 12th of September. The one I worked for, AMIC, Bovis, which was a little south of us. You had Tully that took the east side of the site, and then you had Turner that only had Tower 7. Giuliani was, I don't want to see a pile on December 31st. I want to see flat ground. Everyone went to their marching orders. They tried to make flat ground. Well, what ends up happening is you have people removing debris at different rates. Well, the south side, for instance, the debris gets removed a little deeper. Well, that causes a little bit of a shift. We were afraid at one point that we were all removing at such different rates that we were actually going to cause the collapse of it to begin with because the slurry wall wasn't supported, and we have a weak side over there. It's essentially a weak side when you have debris out of it. It's not pushing, it's not making an outward force against that wall. So we were afraid it would collapse on one end wherever whoever was removing the debris the fastest and following Giuliani's orders, they were going to cause the collapse of the wall and make it worse. And I did mention this earlier. That excavation spoils pile from the center became Battery Park, which everybody knows of and around the area in the south end of Lower Manhattan. It's only the 3rd time that we'd used that technology. And when it was used before that, it wasn't used for much. Nothing of this magnitude by any means. It's been used recently for the Boston Central Artery Project, the 12-mile tunnel under Boston. And that's kind of how it goes. You put the slurry wall in, the black, then you drill in, and you try and reestablish those ties. They actually brought in a company from Australia to try and reestablish the cables. The cables were left in the ground. All they did was cut the trumpets, the inside tieback on the wall. And they tried for 2 or 3 weeks. They brought their equipment all the way from Australia. They tried to tie it back, and they couldn't be done, so it was decided, re-drill them. We got to get this done. And what we would do is we would remove tiers. There were, I think, 4 tiers of trumpets, of tiebacks in that. And they would go around and they would do one tier. Then as we would move debris and get clear, they would do the next tier. And we'd work all the way to ground until we got to the final 70-foot basement of the site. And that's kind of what it looked like. That's one of them right there, over here, this trumpet process. You see them sticking out of the wall. That's the actual cable that's drilled into bedrock and grouted, and then a tension is put on it, and that's supposed to hold this whole thing up. What you can see, that was a ramp that we used to get down deeper into the site over time. A lot of these things were temporary. Once we found they were stable, we would use them. Then they would go away as we need to get other places. Here's something even. Anybody here into heavy construction or even house construction? That's essentially a rim joist for Tower 2. And that's how you install it. You get a drill rig out there, you set it up, you drill it at about a 45-degree angle, you get it into bedrock, you grout it, and then you start pulling tension on it. And that's the limit of my expertise on this one. But we would get plans to say where everyone was working. The panels were numbered. They were actually labeled and then numbered. V for VC Street, West, W for West, C for Church, and we would figure out where everyone's working on that night so you knew where everybody was. And that's the actual plans from the tiebacks when the building was put in. We had to de-water around the slurry wall to take the back pressure off. So we had drillers out there working. That driller actually worked with me at Camp Edwards. We were doing explosive remediation at Camp Edwards. And that driller actually worked with me there, strangely enough. Didn't know it when I went there. And these guys were stuck in the middle of all this activity. And drill rigs are noisy. The site is noisy. These guys don't hear things. And he's set up right here, right in the middle of all this traffic pattern. So that was a health and safety logistics nightmare, too. It just had to be done. And that's kind of the way it looked for the roadways. We made circular patterns for debris. And we used the BFC as one of those because that was easy to spot. No one could miss the BFC. We placed those wells close to the slurry wall to dewater, away from subsurface structures that were highly more transmissive to groundwater, and also the path tunnel that was under the building. And they were also, unfortunately, close to debris. And we're at the last slide, or second to last slide. That gives you the idea of what was done there over that 8.5, 9-month period. We had 3,500 workers there, 3.18 million man-hours. No one died. A very few number of people hurt. Most people that were hurt wanted to be back that next day. Most of them came back within 3 or 4 days, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. We had, at that point, 238 workers' comp claims, and I'm going to leave you with this. Because I worked the night shift, I liked the night shift because more work got done, but it was also, from what I read later on, more challenging psychologically. And I found that quote sometime after.
Very good. I'm sure Dwayne said he would be able to stick around afterwards and answer a few questions, and be sure and look at the artifact table. I look around at all of us. I think all of us remember where we were that day, right? So, anyhow, Dwayne, thank you very much for being here. I'd like to present you. This is our Share What You Can award. We're going to be presenting a meal to a worthy person in this community with the Share What You Can award in your honor. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All righty. So one thing I want to point out for visitors and guests, the fine that I imposed on past President Tom Thomas is not really a real fine. I mean, Tom has pledged, as we all have, to what we're going to do for Rotary. So I don't want to scare anybody off that might be looking at joining our club today. So, and Tom is one of our an excellent giver. And I think that we all remember too when this happened how our club stepped up and helped out through other Rotary clubs back in the New York area after this. So we raised a significant amount of money. So thank you for that. As we leave here today, let us go forth into the world in peace. Be of good courage. Hold fast that which is good. Render to no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the afflicted. Honor all persons. Love and serve each other, rejoicing in the fellowship of Rotary. Be people of action. Be the inspiration. And you're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So let's get on our way. Meeting adjourned.